Welcome to our QPR Preview Show, and for the first time in 2023, we have two matches to preview this week against the teams sitting next to each other in the table in 8th and 9th. That's Millwall and Sunderland. They're both going to be joining us at Loftus Road, but before that, we must reflect on the 1-1 draw with Huddersfield last weekend. It means it's now one win in 15 games in all competitions for QPR going back to October. Still seems hard to believe. Yes, it was a point, and yes, it was an improvement on Hull the week before, but the bar is still very low, Dave, to say that.
Yeah, it was better than the Hull, but I mean, it was hard to be worse when it, to be honest. I mean, at least they turned up this week. There was some positives. I thought Johansson was good at the weekend. It was nice to see him back. I thought Field played well as well. Lowe looked a threat. We didn't look as sloppy at the back as we have done, but we still give away a really soft goal. But even though, I mean, after 20, 25 minutes in, you thought there's only one winner here. Surely they're going to win this. And by the end, we were hanging on again to get the point. They had quite a few chances at the end. And it's like, it was better, but it's not very good, is it? It was poor again. And, we got second half, we got into some good positions to kill the gap to get the winner, but we just didn't do anything with them again. We made the wrong pass, overran things, poor control. We're not in a great place, are we?
No, you're right when you say that a few players did have maybe a bit of a better performance, but it was like 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, and we still just looked disjointed to me. And I don't feel like our subs particularly helped us. We didn't. It's like when you want that second wind when you're bringing on the likes of Adoma, Eric Boonham, you wouldn't even know he brought them on. So yeah, not great overall. And it's one of the most like QPR-esque stats ever that since we were top of the table, we've taken 9 points from 42. It's like I say, unbelievable. 8 games without a win now in all competitions. We always seem to go on these runs though, don't we, QPR, like season after season. It is just such a QPR thing to do for some reason, isn't it?
Yeah, and they come out the blue a lot of the time as well. I remember the Holloway ones, we were doing okay, and then all of a sudden you lose 6 in a row. You're like, what happened there? And we down the bottom. McLaren as well, we were doing quite well, and all of a sudden we didn't win for about 3 months. It does happen. It's again this season, isn't it? We were sitting here talking about playoffs and winning the league, and now look at us. That's changed sharpish, isn't it?
I mean, literally, if anyone watches back our preview shows from September,
don't watch
October,
it
we're
back,
going to look like right mugs, but hopefully no one's doing that.
Yeah.
And it couldn't really probably come at a worse time to face two of the more consistent sides in the league, both hard to beat teams. Although I don't think any opposition's ideal for us right now, to be honest. But Millwall and Sunderland, they've each only lost 2 of the last 10 league games. They drew with each other last weekend, both very much still in contention for the playoffs. For QPR to get back in that picture, you think we'd have to win both of these matches, but maybe that ship has already sailed. I don't know, but like I say, we probably would be back in it. But the likelihood of us suddenly winning 2 games, I think that's even beyond QPR. Let's look at Millwall first. We actually do have a decent record against them by QPR standards. I tend to say the opposite every week, but against Millwall, 1 defeat in the last 9, only 2 in 13. But in terms of current form, obviously they're light years ahead of us. They've got 4 clean sheets in the last 6. Everyone knows they're hard to break down, hard to beat. It's not really what we need, is it? Like I said.
No, although we've got a good record against them, they're always tough games. They're a well-organised side. They've got threats going forward. Don't concede many goals. Always a hard game against Millwall, and obviously I think they've got the full away end at the weekend, so you have a lot of fans. It's going to be like decent atmosphere. It's not a game you want when you're really not in form. They're not going to give you a seconds piece. They're not going to let us play. They're going to be really trying to stop us. I think that's a really difficult game. The worry for me with them is they're very strong at set pieces, and we are not so strong at set pieces at defending them. So it's going to be a very, very difficult game at the weekend. But they've got to turn this around quickly. They're not good. The games don't get easier after that. You look forward. You've got like Middlesbrough and other, Watford coming up. At some point they're going to have to turn these draws into a win. Otherwise, forget the playoffs. They're going to start looking down the table.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 2. We had that one win in 17 when it was Steve McLaren, and we're obviously 2 games away from that. And then, like you're saying, the fixtures to follow. You wonder whether we're actually going to have one of our worst runs in many, many, many years if they don't sort it out soon. In terms of Millwall, I think they're probably going to miss out on the top six, but they're probably going to be in and around it until the end of the season, because we've said it all season. You only have to be moderately consistent in this league to be in the mix, and they are. They kind of like the opposite of QPR. We get too many matches where someone's all right, but then the next match you're giving them like a 1 or 2 out of 10 because they're that bad. Millwalls don't do that. You know every single player in their team is going to be at minimum 6 or 7, and we're going to have to be much, much better to get anything from the game. Obviously, in terms of QPR, the main talking point this week has been the signing of free agent Chris Martin. It certainly seems a split opinion. Where do you stand on it?
I get why they've done it. I mean, the Dyke's getting ill. He's been in hospital. He's not coming back anytime soon, is he? And of the free agents you can get, he's all right. He's experienced. He'll hold the ball up. He could do quite well for us. He scored goals last season. The problem I have with it is, how have we got in this position where we're having to sign a 34-year-old for a transfer just to have a forward at the club? You know, we let Austin and Gray go last year. We weren't scoring many goals last year, were we really? And we've got into this season with Bon, who never played, Armstrong, who hadn't played for the first team back then, and Dykes, who's all right, but he's not a goal machine, is he? And we wonder why we haven't scored many goals. It's like, you haven't gone in with any strikers. They needed to fix this last summer. They haven't, and now you're in a position where we're signing anyone, just to fill a gap. And it's got to change. They can't do this again in the summer. I know strikers are expensive, but other clubs are managing it. The recruitment of forwards has got to be a hell of a lot better than it currently is.
Yeah, it feels like maybe in the summer, I think Beale potentially thought Bon was okay in some of the pre-season matches, and then he thought, okay, we'll go with these two. But again, the long-term planning of that was just diabolical. And I've got an issue with it in terms of, like, where do we think the season's heading? Could we not have just given the kids a chance? The likes of Armstrong now, he's just taking game time away from him. There's obviously some people in the B team, the under-18s. Last season, we made this same mistake, and the club were kind of saying, well, we're getting rid of Warburton because he won't give the kids a chance. And then 12 months down the line, last year we bought in Westwood when we could have just played Mahoney. Now are we not just bringing in Martin when we've got people who could have done a job until Dykes was back? If that's the fact that they let Bond go 2 weeks ago, they probably must have been happy enough at that stage.
I mean, you look at it, I personally think if Sinclair Armstrong was on loan from a Premier League team to us, he'd have played 30 games this season. Might not have been very good, but he would have played every week. Because he's our own player, we just don't pick him. I don't get it. He played 2 games in October, Cardiff, which we won, Wigan, which we won. Then, he fell off the face of the earth for 3 months. We never saw him until he started coming on late in games again now. What I don't get what we're doing with him. Either loan him out if you want him to play every week, or just give him a chance. I say I get why they've signed Chris Martin. They do need someone. I can't see Dykes being back anytime soon. That was obviously pretty serious. If you're in hospital for a week, that's pretty serious, isn't it? So he's going to be out a while. So I get why they've had to do it, but they should not have been in this position to do that. And like you say, I do want to see a lot more of Armstrong given a chance, or some of these under-18 kids given a chance at the end of the season. Likely it is we're not going to go down. I know there's a chance we could, but what are we trying to achieve if we're not going to do that?
Yeah, it almost to me thinks the fact that they've signed him means they must still think they can target the top 6, because if they believe we're going to be mid-table, like I say, I just don't really see what the point is. I hope I'm sat here with egg on my face next week and he scored a hat-trick, but I've never even really rated him anyway. If he was actually good, I think Derby would have beat us in that playoff final. The fact is, I've always thought he was a bit of a donkey. Sorry if you're watching, Chris. And I've seen some comments as well that if we service him and we get the ball in the box, he'll do well. But we haven't done that for Lyndon Dykes all season, so why are we suddenly going to start now just because he's it?
Yeah, we don't put crosses in the box. Where I think he could be useful is his hold-up play and then maybe playing off him. We don't have anyone like that. So maybe having someone like that, you might get a bit more out of Willock and Chair. I'm grasping at straws a little bit with that. But, you've got to live in some sort of hope, haven't you?
Do you think he'll start, or do you think he's going to be coming off the bench?
He has to. You think he'd probably start? They brought Lowe in, who's looked quite good, but he doesn't seem to be a natural main forward, does he? He's probably better playing as a 2 or coming from deeper. So I'd imagine he'll probably play Lowe and Martin, I think, and have Lowe just playing off him.
Yeah, I think he will start. His last start for Bristol City was back in August. He seems to have been just a cameo role ever since then, until they released him. But I think Critchley he's just going to be desperate to probably try something different. And because of that, I think he'll be keen to get him in there. In terms of that as well, Critchley, he did actually try something different last week, didn't he, with the central midfield three? Samfield was trying to push higher at times and win headers. Didn't really help us in the final third, though, did it? I mean, the goal, again, we scored came from an error, not something we created. That remains an ongoing concern, doesn't it, no matter what we seem to try?
Yeah, I can't remember us having a lot of chances. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I said, we were better last week than the previous week, but I can't remember their keeper making many saves. It was more the fact that they were useless for the first half, Huddersfield, that we were well on top than anything we did. It's a worry, but it's just, we say the same like stuck record every week. We just don't create enough chances, and with the players we've got, it's a travesty, really. You've got people like Willock and Chair on your team. You should be creating a hell of a lot more than we do.
Yeah, when you look at the team on paper, you can't believe we've only scored 7 goals in 14 league games. You think just by the law of averages, we'd have scored more than that. It's a horrific run, the worst for 54 years. Again, you can't believe we're saying it in this season, which promised so much. But again, just so QPR, isn't it? Let's touch on the midweek clash with Sunderland. The big news for them in recent weeks has been that the top scorer, Ross Stewart, is going to miss the rest of the season. He's having to have surgery. Top of that, Ellis Sims was recalled by Everton. That's taken 18 goals out of their side. Do you think that's ultimately going to cost them their chance of maybe a top 6 finish? It was probably an outside chance anyway.
Yeah, I think it probably will. When we played them up there, I was really impressed with them too. As a front two, they were really good, and they should have beat us on the day. They were cruising at 2-0, and for some reason they started to just try and run the clock down and just invited us back in the game. I know they've changed managers since then, so maybe they're a bit different now. But those two forwards really impressed me, and they were going really well. But yeah, losing the two of them, I don't think they've replaced them really, have they? I don't think they signed anyone last week. I think they're going to be fine, top half of the table, but probably not enough for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Stewart injury was only confirmed literally on the point of the deadline, so they probably didn't have much time to react. I still think it's been a great season for them. They're more than established themselves back at this level. Interesting as well, that top of their assist chart is Jack Clark with 7. He looked like a little lost boy, didn't he, when he was on loan with us 3 years ago? But he's finally finding his feet, isn't he?
Yeah, he's done well this season. Like you say, he struggled with us, but he was very young, and we didn't play him. Another one we didn't play that much. He was on the bench a lot, and he was with us during when the lockdown stuff first started. So it was quite a weird time. It's a bit hard to judge people then, but he's gone away from Spurs, and he's done really well there, hasn't he? He played for it, done well last year. I thought he looked quite good in the game up at their place early in the season. He'll be a threat. He'll have something to prove because obviously he didn't have a great time here, And another difficult game.
Yeah, it is. Like I said about Millwall, they're one of those teams where you feel like they're going to have a minimum level for their players, and that's what we don't do. We have too many people who turn up and underperform. Hopefully, we can avoid it this week because surely, with 2 opportunities now to get that home win, the first since October, how many points from 6, Dave?
I think we're surely going to win one of them. So I'll go 3 points from the 2 games. I'll probably take that if we can win one game. I don't think we'll win both. They're 2 tricky games, but I think, the thing is, if we can win on Saturday, if we can beat Millwall on Saturday, the whole mood changes, the whole confidence of the team changes. Then you don't know, what could happen. But sitting here now, I'll take 1 win out of them 2.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point because if you beat Millwall, the monkey's off the back in terms of the bad run one, and the crowd will be well up for it on Tuesday. Whereas if we lose to Millwall, it could be a really low crowd. People will be flat from the off and just waiting for something to happen. And for me, though, I've got to be honest. I'm sorry, I'm always terrible at this point, but when you just look at the overall form of QPR, the lack of goals, our recent performances, and then contrast it with the teams we're facing, they're just better than us right now. And unless we find something big from somewhere, I struggle to see us getting more than a point from the 2 games, unfortunately. It just seems to be the way it's heading. I hope I'm wrong. And of course, I hope QPR gets 6 points and Chris Martin scores a hat-trick. And then nobody will be happier than me that I'm wrong. And like you said, we've got Middlesbrough next week. So we better hope we get some points in these games because that one looks pretty grim, doesn't it? Yeah. We're back to preview that next week. Thank you for watching and come on, you R's.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.